Thank you so much. Oh. Okay, thank you. Very nice.
We're sitting over here now because we don't want to be in front of the screen. It's our new thing.
Yeah?
We can't move Otis.
No, you can move me. I mean, I can sit in front of the screen.
You can sit here. You can sit here if you like.
Yeah.
Or maybe
I just like the corner.
Well,
Stick
then
my
you-
leg out. That's good.
Otis, you keep the corner.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know. I did one over.
These chairs
Hey, Karen.
down there. It's super weird. It's very annoying. And I smell. I know what you're saying. I got it.
You're welcome.
We'll announce it, but Mike is going to be interim chair.
Oh, Mike Simpson.
Interim.
What up?
No, we're just, he was technically the vice chair. Apparently, I don't have a record of it, so he'll act as interim chair till we get new roles. I'll announce it at the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah. Busy.
Bonkers.
Don't be late.
That's Barry. How did you get roped into this phone?
Are you ready? This is the Syracuse Board of Zoning Appeals meeting of May 16th, 2024 is now in session. The first order of business is to approve the minutes from April 25th, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any modifications or discussion? All in favor? All in opposition? Any abstentions? The minutes are officially adopted. The board will now conduct the public hearing on today's agenda. First, the applicant or the applicant's representative will state the reason for the requested variance and present any material or documentation which is to be considered regarding the proposal. Next, the persons wishing to speak in favor of the proposal will be given the opportunity to address the board. Then persons who wish to speak in opposition will be allowed to address the board. Finally, the applicant or a representative will be given the option to make any closing arguments or comments to the board. Following the public hearing this afternoon, the board may make a decision on each application heard. The board may also decide to hold its decision until the next public hearing. If the hearing is closed, no additional information will be allowed into the record, except for the information that the board may request. That information will be available for the public to review at the zoning office in 1 Park Place, 300 South State Street. Staff will now introduce the first application.
So the first items we have on the agenda is V-24-04. It is an area variance to allow a wall sign on north elevation of the Coda apartment to exceed maximum sign face height.
Could you just please state your name and address?
Sure. So my name is Brian Bouchard, and I'm with CHA Consulting, and we're the project engineer working on behalf of the applicant for these variances, which have been split up. They're all related. I'm not sure if you want me to follow the agenda and just specifically talk about one, and then we'll move on to the next.
Let's ask staff about that. Should we hear them all at once or go through them one at a time?
I think it'd probably be better to do them one at a time, just yeah, you'll discuss them separately, okay?
Okay.
It really depends. If you want them to do it separately, because there's 3 separate applications, whatever you want.
It's 3 separate sets of signs, I believe. Is that right?
Three individual signs,
And
all
be-
separated because they are truly distinct in their variance requests,
Yeah.
so.
But before we vote, it might be good to hear about all three. Yeah, so let's proceed.
Sure. I'll just give a general overview, and then we can circle back individually if we need to. So the Coda apartment project, this is 301 South Crouse Ave. This is a mixed-use residential apartment project, properly situated at the corner of South Crouse Ave and East Genesee Street. The project obviously has multiple road frontages, and there's really two primary frontages. One is the East Genesee Street corridor along sort of that business corridor east-west, and then also South Crouse Ave, which is the north-south corridor. And as this board will recall, this project was before the BZA, prior to rezone, did require certain area variances to sort of facilitate that approval of that project. And actually, as we stand today with rezone passed, with the board's support, the project moved forward, but those, the project is conforming obviously to the new MX4 zoning regulations. And one of the things that we talked about both with this board and the Planning Commission when the project was originally developed is really the transformation that will happen along South Crouse Ave. And I say this because it's related to sort of visibility in the signage. South Crouse Ave, when the elevated highway comes down, will actually be a primary discharge point off of 690 that leads up to University Hill. So DOT is making significant improvements to South Crouse Ave and the north-south corridor to get traffic free-flowing up into the university area and to Genesee Street where we're located. So specific to this application, building is currently being constructed. Progress is going well. And the architecture team and ownership have finalized a proposal for the signage to be placed on the building. So we do have 3 signs that we're requesting to be placed on the building. The project is called Coda, and that's the signage that you see here. The first sign is on the north-facing facade, so this faces Fayette Street. Can I just step away from the mic and maybe I'll show you the site plan real quick? Just
Can you
to-
carry a mic with you, though?
I can.
No.
Yeah.
Whole thing like
Yeah.
that. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm used to being plugged in elsewhere. So, no, I'm good. I'm just gonna go right like this and pretend like I know what I'm doing here. If we go to the site plan, which should be the first page in your packet, just to orient you, north is off to the right-hand side of the page. So East Fayette Street is our garage driveway entrance, and it faces 690. So the first sign is a wall sign that would be placed on the East Fayette Street side. And then because we do have frontage along South Crouse, I'll talk about the South Crouse sign that's over the pedestrian entrance on South Crouse Ave. And then the third sign is on the Genesee Street side. So the first sign is the one that you see in this graphic here. So this faces north. This is a wall sign. The reason why we're requesting a variance for this sign is not necessarily because of its size, but because of its orientation. The signage code contemplates signage as being horizontal and specifically calls for a maximum height, a vertical height of the sign. Because we have oriented it with the architecture of the building to be placed sort of within, along the windows in a vertical orientation, although our sign is narrow, it's taller than it should be. So the sign request for this East Fayette frontage sign is a conforming wall sign in terms of its placement. It's internally illuminated channel letters with an acrylic face, but the size is permissible, but it's truly because of the vertical orientation to which we're exceeding 10 feet in height. So the size is appropriate. It calls for 10 feet in height. The width of our letters is narrower than 10 feet, but we're oriented vertically. And the sign has obviously been designed to sort of fit into the architecture of the building in terms of the mass and scale there. Second and third signs are on South Crouse, and maybe you can just go to that graphic so we can look at it. And I will mention a change that we worked on. It should be one page up, I think. So both of these signs are actually projecting signs. There it is, thank you. It's actually it's the older version with the larger one on Genesee Street. So both of these are projecting signs, and the intent on the projecting sign is so that as you're traveling north, south, or east or west along each one of the respective corridors, that there's some visual interest to the sign. It kind of matches the aesthetic of the building and fits into the space. There we go. Projecting signs are not contemplated for like building identification signs. Really, this is quite different than what the sign code may allow for something like Armory Square, where we don't want very large projecting signs, but each individual business within a smaller portion of a block has the ability to install a projecting sign. So the projecting signs are very limited and not really contemplated for the use that we're proposing here, which is why we're asking for the variances from this board. So the one on South Crouse that you see there is, it's 21 feet by 4 feet 8 inches, and it projects off of the building. Permissible projecting signs can't exceed 10 square feet, and then also the height being 4 feet tall. So we had similar signs on South Crouse and Genesee Street. And prior to coming to this board, we've done two things. One is that the project name used to be The Coda, so the sign was slightly larger. We worked with staff to resolve that by deleting the word the. So we are minimizing the variance request here by shrinking that sign to just the word Coda. And then the second stop that we made before coming here was with the Syracuse Landmark Preservation Board. On our site is a historic house. It's a Ward Wellington Ward house, used to be part of the old Ronald McDonald. We have inherited that house and incorporated it into our project and will become commercial space in the future. We did visit the Syracuse Landmark Preservation Board because although we're not placing signage on that structure, the signage along East Genesee Street was a referral that they had the ability to comment on. So you can see in your packets, the signs were essentially identical between South Crouse and East Genesee Street. And the comment that we received from Syracuse Landmark Preservation Board was to reduce the size of that sign. So we've actually shrunk it by better than half and also lowered it because it has a much shorter height. We've lowered it on the building, and we've circulated that with Kate, both Seetong and myself, and confirmed that the size of that sign is appropriate to scale for the comments that the Landmark Preservation Board had provided to us. So we are exceeding, obviously, the projecting sign. We're exceeding the size and the height. And then also projecting signs, again, are contemplated as sort of first floor individualized smaller business signs that may populate an entire block. They're not allowed to be above the second floor. So ours are located above the second floor here. These are also cabinet LED internally lit, so they're orange acrylic letters, and you can kind of see the lighting sort of in the dusk shot on the top there, and then during the daytime when it's not lit, what the perspective is from across Genesee Street there. Our documents did provide the answers to the balancing tests or standards of proof. Obviously, this is a self-created hardship because it's something we're specifically requesting to sort of create the vibrancy and modern feel of the building that we feel is appropriate with the mass and scale. Again, the size of the signs could be much larger and could be placed on the 6th floor and be permissible and not come to this board. But we chose to do smaller signs in a kind of unique way with the projection here. So we don't feel that it would affect the character of the area.
Can you clarify? You said you could put signs on the top, on the roof?
Correct. Wall signs are allowed, well, not on the roof, but wall signs are allowed to be at any point in the building and can be fairly large, like 300-something square feet. So you picture some of the things with like Haler, Fryer, and Kuhn and some of these larger signs, not looking necessarily for excessive size with a wall sign that just would not fit sort of the aesthetic of the building, but something that's smaller, even though it is projecting, is the way that the design team chose to approach signage here.
Okay. Please go on.
You know, some of the other standards, just to touch on them in terms of whether it's substantial or not, there's some examples I have from elsewhere within the city that, you know, there are, like the library and some of the parking signs, offer the same type of projection, so it's not really substantial in terms of the size and mass of the building. As we said, the size is really within the permissible area. It's just the technique to which we are attaching the sign to the building. And then in terms of environmental and aesthetics, there's really no environmental considerations in terms of signage other than what we believe is an improved aesthetic from sort of the streetscape. So,
in these examples, is the zoning the same?
I mean, I don't think the zoning in terms of the district is different for the signs. But these are projecting signs that are larger than the 10 square feet that's permissible for something like you'd see in Armory Square. So I believe they are still in excess of what maybe the projecting sign code would say, which is not specific to a district, but it is 10 square feet maximum, which these obviously exceed to.
Now, okay, if this is an apartment building, people are going to rent, why do they even need these signs? You know,
So this is the name of the project, right? So yes, this is serving a different purpose than if I'm a law office or Haler, you know, some of these things that you
Right.
see, or the AXA towers, right?
Walmart, whatever,
Yeah,
yeah.
those are identifying, those signs are placed there to try and capture business, right? With any apartment project, there still is the ability to have marketing and have an identifying, you know, capacity in terms of, I live at the Marshall, right, at SU. We did a project up there. Or I live at the Laurel, or in the Theory Syracuse, right? There's actually a projecting sign just down the road on Genesee Street for Theory Syracuse. So this is much the same. It's not advertising a product that I want you to sell and come to my place of business, but it's a way to create an identity for the building and have that be identifiable.
Brian, where are the numbers, like the actual address numbers going to be?
They are, I believe, over the pedestrian entrance, which is where our emergency command center is for fire department as well. So it's not part of the sign. They will
Right.
they will be compliant with the lettering and height that emergency response needs to identify the address location, which is right over the main entrance on South Cross.
And maybe a question for staff, is there a maximum size that those can be?
Yes. So for the multi-unit wall sign, the wall sign is like 25 square feet per store, per floor, sorry. But for the projecting sign in the MX4 zone district, the maximum size is 10 square feet.
No, I was asking about the street number size. So if it's 1234 Walnut Street, how big can 1234 be? Is there a maximum? Is there any regulation around that?
You mean the
number on the building.
number?
Like 1,000 South Salina.
Oh, okay. So
think once they hit that minimum, if it's clearly for address purposes, we're not looking at
Right.
yeah, I can also clarify on that. So this kind of sign is the business identification sign. So it's like advertising your business. So the number, like the sign for the street numbers, is just the building identification sign. So the sign code doesn't apply to the building identification sign.
Mostly I was just asking because as apartment buildings, calling the building by its given name is one thing, but truly it's a residence, so.
Yeah, having the address identifiable on Google
Yeah.
Maps and when you're approaching it to know where it is, sure.
And are there other signs contemplated for, I can't remember now, are there tenants on the first floor, potential commercial spaces?
Not yet. We do have a tenant contemplated for the Ward Wellington Ward House, but that hasn't been finalized. We have applications into zoning and the permit desk for that, and they don't necessarily have a sign because the project hasn't formally been approved for that fit out yet. There is retail space on Genesee Street. There's a storefront. There is no tenant for it, so at some point in time, it's likely that we would come back and show you a tenant sign for that, but it wouldn't be something likely that would be mounted on all three sides of the building. I think it would be specific to their storefront area there. Yep.
Please continue if you had more to present.
Nope, I think that's good. I can continue to answer questions, though, if you have any.
There were some other pictures that you were going to share?
Yes, please refer to the last page of the agenda packets. This is the one of our board members, thanks to Michael Cheslick. Michael Stanton. He has taken a site visit and take the pictures of the surrounding apartments with the same size and the photos on the structures. So the first three pictures is for the 505 Walnut Avenue.
You have a copy you could share with the applicant?
Okay, yes.
I think he's got them up on the screen if we needed to
Oh,
look at
okay,
them.
there we go.
Yep.
Yeah, and right now you're looking at the that's the Park Point.
Park Point.
Yeah, Park Point at 401 Comstock Avenue. Oh, 417. And this picture is for the
Skylar Commons.
Skylar Commons. Yeah, this also for the Skylar Commons. And this is for the Laurel, Syracuse at 711 Foreman Avenue. And this is for the Syracuse. This is the building just at the opposite side of the street from the Coda apartment.
Directly west.
That all of them in?
Yes, this are also the Siri signs. Yeah, okay.
So I guess the question is, why are you asking for signs that exceed the size of these in general?
Right, so again, we looked at what would be permissible for area. These signs could be much bigger in area if they were mounted on the building flush, and if they were horizontally oriented, they could also be higher on the building. So this is purely an aesthetic choice to make the signs perhaps smaller than what would be allowed as a flush-mounted sign, and to have it have, I think, more visual interest, I guess, than some of those other signs, in terms of creating sort of the vibrant streetscape that we've all envisioned along South Krause. So certainly acknowledge that this sign and its projection is a different design than all those other ones. I mean, some of them were projecting, obviously, of different sizes. But this is the mass of the building fits well with the signage that was designed. And we took that design that the owner, you know, we've reduced it a few times, obviously, as I mentioned, but still it's a desirable aesthetic that we feel is still appropriate.
Any other questions from the board?
So each of the projecting signs is, you're asking to have it be located above the third floor, not the second floor. Is there, as we think about the variance and tailoring it as narrowly as possible, is there some structural reason why it's on the third floor versus the second floor?
No, I think part of it is visibility, right? So traveling north and south, the Landmark Preservation Board had no exception to where the vertical orientation of it was on South Krause Ave. But they did feel like that size sign was obviously out of proportion with perhaps the Ward Wellington House. So we did not only reduce the size, but we brought it down to between the second and fourth level, essentially. So we did bring that one down a little bit more. But, you know, there are other things at play here in terms of where you see the canopy to the pedestrian entrance sticks out and projects from the building. So from the street, that would be hidden. If you're at a pedestrian scale, it would sort of be hidden behind some of those entryways that we have for the projections of the canopy at the pedestrian level, I guess, too.
And I guess then my last question is the projection off from the building is not 2/3 more than it is allowed.
Yes. So the larger sign, which was the same as the original design, is 4 feet 8 inches. So there is a certain point when
So not the 5.33 that's in our materials?
It is projecting off the face of the building. That is correct, because it is 8 inches. There's 8 inches of an aluminum mounting bracket,
Okay.
but the actual width of the sign is only 4 feet 8 inches. And you can imagine, you know, if we went down to 3 feet, you would end up with smaller or maybe even elongated lettering, right? So, 4 feet, 8 inches in terms of the depth off the building still keeps it well within the property line. This isn't something that's projecting beyond or encroaching out into sort of the right-of-ways. It's still contained within the site.
I would like to clarify. So for the updated plans that they have agreed, like going to the SLPB and do what the landmark preservation require them to do, you can refer to the standing along the pages I just give with the agenda packets. That on this staff report, you can see there's a table in the zoning violations summarize like the maximum sign area allowed in the zoning code is 10 square feet, and the applicant, the new sign they are proposing is only 66 square feet. That's the right updated tables.
Did you say only 66?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's actually 33 square feet per side, but because it is double-sided, you count both sides. So that sign was reduced to under 3 feet in width.
So that was the only one. Okay, sorry. Got it. Okay, so there's one that's 4 feet by 21 feet, and the other one is 4 feet by 12 feet.
Correct. Yes.
Sorry, thanks. I thought I organized my papers, I did not.
Okay, any other questions? Let's see if there's anybody here who wants to speak in favor of the applicant. It doesn't look like it. Anybody who'd like to speak in opposition? Okay, at this point, why don't we talk about the criteria and whether we think that it's been presented and addressed properly? Anyone have something to say on that?
Well, as far as it, would there be a-
Page 17 is where he goes through the tests.
Okay, I got it right here too. Yeah, well, if we had to change to the neighborhood, I think those signs in years to come, I don't know if they would really be, what would I say, this Navajo would just be like, they're so big and all, they would be more of an eyesore than of a attractive thing, like years from now,
I guess we're asking whether he's adequately addressed them rather than to get into whether they're
Yeah.
Yes,
appropriate or not.
Right.
I feel as though I have enough information to deliberate.
Okay.
Okay?
I second that.
Thank you, Otis.
Let's not goof around about it.
No, I second her motion.
I was not making a
Deliberate.
motion.
Make a motion.
Okay, then, in that case, let's close the discussion, close the public comment, and I'll see if there's a motion. Seeker?
All right, have you all had a chance to review the short EAF Part 1 that's contained in your packet?
Yes?
And are you all familiar with the questions of the short EAF Part 2, which is also in your packet?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone believe this project will have any moderate to large impacts?
No.
Because you don't believe there will be any moderate to large impacts, I recommend you vote to issue a negative declaration under seeker and complete the EAF Part 3 accordingly.
Is there a motion on seeker?
Motion to approve the negative declaration.
Is there a second? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. All right, now do we have a motion on the application for today? We
Mr.
should
Chairman,
do,
can you specify which?
yes, the first application. Do you want to give the number for it?
So the first item is V-24-04. It is an area variance to allow a wall sign on north elevation of the Coda Apartments to exceed maximum sign face height.
I'd make a motion to approve the variance for V24-4.
Second.
We have a proposal on a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries.
So the next items we have is V-24-05. It's also an area variance, but it's to allow a projecting sign on west elevation of the Coda apartment to exceed maximum sign area, maximum sign face height, maximum projecting distance from building facade, and to be located above the second floor.
Do we have a motion on the second?
Question for staff, can we make a motion recommending that V24-5 and V24-6 be similarly sized variances, so that they're essentially we're approving the same size sign?
You're allowed to change the request. So if you, one request is for a 10 by 10 sign and the other's a 10 by 8, and you want them both to be 10 by 8, you can make a motion that they do 2 10 by 8s, or, okay?
Approval with conditions, is that?
You can modify the request. It's not a condition, really. It's a motion modifying the request that that's what you're going to vote on.
Okay.
Isn't the different sign because the one has the historical structure on it, so it's smaller on that side?
Yes.
So to be courteous, so you're saying make them equally small?
To me, the aesthetic design of the building is not, they have design control, so I'm more inclined to give as small a variance as possible, understanding the aesthetics, but, you know,
That is,
they control the building canopy, they control the massing, like, this is not new information. I understand the visibility needs, but, you know, as small a variance as possible, given that we are charged with enforcing the new zoning administration ordinance and its application broadly.
and we're charged to give the minimum necessary to achieve the goals. So can you?
It seems like a nice compromise, that's all I'm saying.
Can you specify exactly what the dimensions would be then?
I would make a motion to approve V2405 with the following amendments: to change the proposed sign area to 66 square feet, the proposed sign face height to 12 feet, the proposed projecting distance from the facade at 3.417 and no more and no less feet, and the proposed projecting sign to be located above the second floor.
All right, do we have a second to that? Okay, we have a motion and a seconded. All those in favor of the motion as delivered? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, going on to the third item then.
Okay, so the third item is V-24-
We didn't do seeker, we need to do seeker.
No, I thought you just did this.
Third item.
That was the second item.
We did the second one. I changed it to match the third one.
Okay,
And-
I
and-
thought you did the third
Do
one.
we need to do seeker for each?
No, we did seeker for the
Okay.
three, it's okay.
Okay, so continue. So the third item is V-24-06. It's an area variance to allow a projecting sign on south elevation facing the East Genesee Street of the Coda Apartments to exceed maximum sign area,
Second one, I changed the second
maximum sign face height, maximum projecting distance from the building facade, and to be located above the second floor.
Do we have a motion?
I'll go again. I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second? Oh, wait, you'll just approve without conditions.
Sure, I think in the balancing test between the neighborhood character, the feasibility of the alternatives, the substantiality of the variance requested, adverse effect on the neighborhood, and if it's a self-created difficulty. It is a self-created difficulty. The building is a new build, so they had full design control. It's as minimally invasive as possible, and I appreciate the Landmark Preservation Board's guidance on that issue. I don't think it'll have much of an adverse effect on the neighborhood character or the physical or environmental conditions of the district. I think there are feasible alternatives, and that the compromise recommended by the Landmark Preservation Board is a way to achieve both the project's aims as well as the spirit of the sign ordinance.
Nicely done, thank you. We do have a second? Do we have a second? Oh, Liam, okay. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? It passes unanimously. So,
Thank you, Brian.
that ends the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you.